Tony Asika was not just a man. In the eyes of many, he was a lifestyle, a walking charm, a legend in the flesh, and a heartbreaker with no brakes. At 27, Tony had done what some men couldn't do in a lifetime, not in business or wealth, but in the game of seduction. His friends joked that he had visited more bedrooms than banks, and Tony wore that reputation like a badge of honor. He wasn't a bad-looking man. Tall enough to command a room, dark-skinned with clean features and confident eyes that always seemed to undress whoever they landed on. His voice was smooth, low, and dangerous, like jazz at midnight. His shirts were always slightly unbuttoned, his cologne perfectly measured, and his laugh was what sealed the deal. It made women curious and made men nervous. Tony had no preferences. Married, single, thick, slim, young, older, if she was a woman, and she looked his way, Tony considered it an invitation. And if she didn't look his way, he simply tried harder. He was the man who never slept alone, and never with the same woman twice unless she begged. Some called it confidence. Others called it madness. But Tony called it freedom. He didn't believe in commitment. He thought love was a scam designed to trap strong men into weakness. To him, relationships were like hotel rooms, temporary places of comfort before you check out and move on. The city of Lagos buzzed with his name. Gate men whispered about him. Husbands clenched their fists at the mention of him. And single ladies warned each other to avoid that demon called Tony, while secretly wondering what it would be like to have just one night with him. He would step into clubs like he owned the place. Bartenders knew his drink. Waitresses knew his smile. Bouncers shook his hand and called him chairman. He wasn't rich in the traditional sense, but he dressed like he had oil wells buried under his bedroom. And his phone, oh, his phone. It never stopped buzzing. Messages like, "Where did you disappear to last night? My husband is back this weekend. Can we meet before Friday? Tony, I hate you, but I miss you. If I ever catch you with my wife again, you're a dead man." He read them all like fan mail, responded when he felt like it, blocked when necessary, but laughed every time. To his boys, he was a hero. They gathered around him at bars like he was a prophet of seduction. They asked him for tips, begged for stories, and praised his latest adventures like epic tales from ancient kings. But beneath all the noise and pride, there was one name Tony had long forgotten. Lisa. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. She wasn't the kind of girl men chased after on Instagram. But she was the kind of woman you remembered when the crowd left and your phone was quiet. Lisa had known Tony before the legend was born. Back when he still sold sneakers from the back of his car and dreamt of owning a shop in Yaba. She had once sat with him under a mango tree, listening to his wild ideas and feeding him groundnuts. She didn't want anything from him, no money, no trips, no attention. Just his time, his honesty. But as Tony rose in street fame, he left the quiet girls behind. And Lisa became just another old friend he never called. Until one evening, she invited him to dinner. It was a quiet restaurant tucked inside Lekki. Nothing fancy, just the kind of place people who loved each other would go to talk. She wore a soft yellow gown and kept looking at the door. Tony arrived 45 minutes late, smelling like perfume that wasn't his. He greeted her with a distracted smile and immediately ordered a drink. She had already ordered his favorite, jollof rice with spicy chicken. It sat in front of him, still warm. "You remembered," he said, surprised. "I never forgot," she replied. But Tony was already flirting with the waitress before he picked up his fork. Lisa watched in silence. The boy she once knew was gone, replaced by a man who didn't notice her silence, didn't ask about her life, didn't care that her smile faded halfway through the meal. When the laughter died down and the waiter walked away, she spoke quietly. "How have you been?" she asked, studying him. He still looked as handsome as ever. "Well, same old me. Here and there and ensuring I enjoy my life the best way I can." "I miss you," she said, hoping he would understand. Tony gave a short, proud laugh. He was already eating his food. "Everybody misses Tony. Even the ladies who hate me. Tony, I love you." The words hit the table like a dropped glass. Even Tony paused. He laughed, unsure if it was a joke. But she didn't laugh with him. "I mean it," she said. Tony leaned back in his chair, amused. "Lisa, love? You still believe in that fairy tale?" She nodded slowly. "With the right person, yes." Tony smiled, but it wasn't kind. "Then you're wasting it on me." He stood, placed a few Naira notes on the table, and kissed her cheek. "You're a good girl. You'll find someone better. Someone boring." And just like that, he walked away. Later that night, Tony opened his little black notebook. He flipped past pages filled with names, dates, locations. He turned to the last page and scribbled, 374, Uche, Lekki Phase 1. A small star beside it. Then a line underneath, 374 and counting. He leaned back on his pillow, closed the book, and smiled. He didn't think of Lisa. He didn't regret the dinner. To him, it was just another day. But outside, in the distance, a wind began to rise. Tony Asika wasn't addicted to love or relationships, just women. For him, the thrill wasn't in the body, but in the chase. The seduction, the conquest, the surrender. He could spot his next target anywhere, on the street, in traffic, at church. Married or single, slim or thick, young or older. Tony believed every woman wanted him. And often they did. He wasn't just charming, he was dangerously so. His voice made women pause. His eyes made them forget sense. And a single touch felt like a spell. Tony wasn't the man mothers warned daughters about. He was worse. He'd text, "Good morning, beautiful." Listen to your pain like he cared. Show up with flowers. Whisper, "I couldn't stay away." Then vanish before sunrise. Never a goodbye. Never a second thought. Love? He thought it was weakness. Boring. Routine. He believed he wasn't built for one woman, one mood, one style, one voice. Life to him was variety. Commitment felt like prison. He lived for first glances, forbidden touches, and the buzz of knowing he was doing something wrong and getting away with it. If a woman was married, even better. Less drama. More secrecy. Easier control. When they cried, he didn't care. When they begged, he laughed. When they found out, he moved on. Tony didn't remember names. Just faces. Not feelings, just reactions. His charm pulled women in even when everything about him screamed, "Run." And still they stayed, hoping to be the one who'd change him. But Tony didn't want to change. He kept a little black notebook, neatly filled with names, dates, locations. Some were starred, special performances. Others had cold notes. Too clingy. Risky but worth it. Said she loved me. Never replied again. To him, that book was a trophy case. Proof that he mattered. That he ruled. That he was a king. "I don't hurt women," he once said. "I give them what they ask for. If they catch feelings, that's their problem." And he meant it. He believed nothing he did was wrong, as long as they smiled at the start. Whether they cried at the end, that wasn't his concern. To Tony, he was a gift, a fantasy, a man no woman could forget. And he didn't fear karma, because deep down he thought he was untouchable. Or maybe he just didn't care. Once in a while, when the heat got too much, Tony would disappear for a few days. No calls, no texts, just him, the road, loud music, and thoughts of the next woman he'd add to his book. It was supposed to be a quick weekend escape, a drive to clear his head, get away from the drama of jealous husbands, bitter side chicks, and the endless string of unanswered messages on his phone. This time, he took a route he didn't recognize. Somewhere outside Ogun State. No traffic, no street signs, just trees and the occasional old fuel station. The road was long and strangely quiet. Too quiet. His car, sleek and black, sliced through the highway like a shadow. He had one hand on the wheel, the other lazily scrolling his phone, smiling at a voice note from a girl who just found out she wasn't the only one. "Please, Tony," she cried. "Why do you treat women like we're nothing?" He smirked and deleted it. But not long after that, the car made a strange sound. A sputter. Then silence. The engine died. Tony frowned, turned the key again. Nothing. He stepped out of the car and looked around. No mechanic in sight. No cars passing. Just silence, and a strange mist slowly creeping across the road. He checked his phone, 0 bars. Frustrated, he kicked the tire. Perfect. That's when he saw it. A crooked wooden sign by the side of the road, half covered in grass. Welcome to Erema, 3 kilometers ahead. He squinted. Erema? Never heard of it. It wasn't on his GPS either. Still, he had 2 choices. Sit and sulk or walk and find help. He started walking. As he moved deeper into the path, a strange mist rolled in, cool and almost comforting. Trees lined the narrow road like silent guards. The silence made him alert, but his confidence swallowed the discomfort. Probably just a local village, he muttered, already thinking of the story he'd tell his guys later. Then he saw it, the town. Small, neat, oddly beautiful. Stone paths, colorful homes, clean surroundings, and women. Only women. Everywhere. Not one man in sight. They moved about slowly, elegantly. Some sat in front of shops. Others tended to gardens or walked in pairs, whispering and giggling as their eyes met his. Tony slowed his steps, confused but intrigued. Where were the men? Just then, 2 women approached. One of them was tall and stunning. Smooth brown skin, glowing eyes. The other was shorter, rounder, but with the kind of smile that made your heart skip. You look lost, the tall one said. Tony smiled back. Yeah, car broke down. I saw the sign and thought I'd find help. You came at the right time, the other woman said, stepping closer. It's been a while since we had someone like you around. Tony chuckled. Someone like me? The tall one nodded. A man, especially one that looks like you. Her eyes moved down his chest. The other woman giggled. Tony raised a brow. Where are the men, though? Whole town full of women. The taller woman answered smoothly, like she'd said it 100 times. They left. Work in the oil fields far away. Most men here only return once every few months. Some not at all. The rest, well, they don't stay long. Tony paused. The answer made sense. Rural place. Working class. Checked out. So you're all just here? We manage. But it gets quiet, she said. You, however, are a blessing. The other one added, let us take care of you. We'll make sure you're comfortable. Tony grinned. So this is how my weekend turns out? No traffic, no Lagos noise, and a town full of beautiful women desperate for company? He almost laughed. God, you do love me. They led him down the stone path into a large, welcoming guest house. Women waved at him from windows. Some whispered to each other, smiling like schoolgirls. The place was warm and scented with something sweet. A woman brought water to wash his dusty feet. Another massaged his shoulders. Fresh soup was placed in front of him before he could ask. And all the while, women came and went, eyeing him, complimenting him. You have the body of a strong man, one said, touching his arm. Your lips look soft, another whispered. Tony leaned back in the chair, arms folded behind his head. He hadn't felt this celebrated in a long time. That night, they dressed him in a fine robe and led him to a wide bed with red sheets and flickering candles. 3 women entered. No words were needed. Their eyes said it all. As he lay back, Tony smiled to himself. This must be the luckiest day of my life. At first, it was everything Tony had ever fantasized. A beautiful bed, candlelit rooms, women, many women, touching, pleasing, whispering his name like he was some lost king returned. Every time he closed his eyes, another hand was reaching, another body pressed against his. Pleasure came in waves, but it never stopped. Not at night, not at dawn, not even when he whispered, enough. The first night, Tony grinned. The second night, he groaned. By the third, he was begging. It started with moans, soft at first, then louder, strange, echoing into the walls like chants. Their faces began to shift, not physically, but their expressions. Less flirtatious, more hungry. Their eyes lost warmth, grew darker, hungrier. Tony began to feel it, his body sore, his skin cold, his muscles weak. But still they came. Always in threes. Sometimes 5. They didn't ask. They didn't speak sweetly anymore. They just knocked. "We're ready." His strength waned. His charm had no use here. His smile vanished. One morning he stumbled to the window. Tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. He tried the door. Locked. He pounded it with shaking fists. "Hello? Anybody? Open this damn thing." Silence. Then, a knock. He froze. The door creaked open. 3 women stood there, clothed in red silk, their eyes glowing under the candlelight. Tony backed away. "Please, I need to rest." They entered slowly, without emotion. One leaned in close, her lips brushing his ear. "Now you know what it feels like to be used." He collapsed to the floor, his breath short. His body was breaking, not from injury, but from exhaustion. His ego was gone. His pride stripped. He thought of his conquests, the girls who cried when he left, the ones who said no and he convinced anyway, the ones who believed his lies. He remembered their faces, their sadness, their brokenness, and now he was the one being used. He was the plaything. The silence between sessions haunted him more than the touch. He had no power, no exit, no control, just like the women he once tossed aside. By the 4th day, Tony tried to escape again. He faked sleep, waited until the footsteps disappeared, and forced open the back closet. Inside was a staircase, a glimmer of hope. He limped down, dizzy, praying to find an exit. But all he found was a circular room, candlelit, covered in paintings of naked women standing over faceless men. In the center, a bed, chained to the floor. The air smelled like perfume and blood. He stepped back, terrified. A whisper behind him. "You thought this was luck, Tony?" He turned. The tall woman from the first day stood there, calm. "You came here chasing pleasure, but here we feed off it." Tony dropped to his knees, shaking. "Please, I didn't know. I'm sorry." She knelt beside him. "We know. That's why you were chosen." Tears formed in his eyes. His voice cracked. "I just wanted to enjoy life. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." She studied him, then said softly, "That's what they all say, right before we teach them how it feels." Hours passed, maybe days. Time no longer made sense. Tony lost count of the knocks, the sessions, the touches that didn't ask if he was okay. Every moan became a scream in his mind. Every kiss, a chain around his soul. And then, one morning, silence. He woke up alone. The candles were out. The door was open. Outside, the mist had returned, thick, endless, eerie. His clothes were folded neatly. His phone fully charged. He didn't speak, didn't question. He simply walked, back through the village, past the smiling women, into the trees, alone, changed, broken. Tony jolted upright, gasping for air. His hands clutched the steering wheel. His heart pounded. Sweat soaked his shirt. He was in his car, parked, alone. The engine was cold. The sun was out. Birds chirped in the trees. A soft breeze moved through the grass. No mist, no guest house, no red bedsheets, no women. He stared at the road ahead, dazed. Then behind him, it was empty, as if nothing had happened. He blinked hard and slapped his own cheek. Once, twice, still here, still real. Was it a dream? He whispered. But the ache in his legs told another story. His back throbbed. His wrist stung. His body was tired in ways he didn't understand. He slowly reached for his phone. It buzzed instantly. Signal restored. 42 missed calls. Mostly from women. A few from his boys. Some texts came in immediately. "Where are you?" "Tony, pick up your phone. You're playing games again. I swear I'll block you." He didn't answer any. He just stared. He stepped out of the car slowly, looking around for any sign of where he had been. No wooden sign. No "Welcome to Erema." Just bush, road, sky. Like the town had never existed. Tony rubbed his eyes, unsure whether he was losing his mind. Had he dreamt it all? But how could he explain the terror in his chest, the exhaustion in his bones, the sound of that woman's voice whispering in his ear? Now you know what it feels like to be used. He opened his notebook, the little black one where he recorded names like trophies. The last entry was there, 374, Uche, Lekki Phase 1. But the next line had changed. In shaky handwriting, unfamiliar and not his own, it read, Erema, entry 375? His breath caught. He slammed the book shut, got into the car, started the engine, and drove back to Lagos. No music, no calls, no humming, no swagger, just silence. For the first time, Tony wasn't thinking about which girl to see or what lie to tell. He wasn't planning his next move. He wasn't smiling. His mind was foggy, but his heart was heavy. Every face he had toyed with replayed in his head. Every tear, every goodbye, every lie whispered into the dark just to get what he wanted. He finally felt it. Not guilt. Something deeper. Fear. By the time he hit city traffic, the world looked different. Louder, colder, emptier. People honked, shouted, walked past him. But Tony just gripped the wheel, his eyes blank. He passed by a woman selling fruit at the junction. She smiled at him, flirty, playful. He looked away. He didn't want to be noticed. Not anymore. Lagos moved fast. No one paused. But Tony Asika did. He didn't party, didn't flirt, didn't even look up when women passed. The old Tony, the one who fed off attention, who made hearts flutter and tears fall, was gone. Now he walked through the streets with his head low, a ghost in his own kingdom. He passed old lovers every day, women who used to rush into his arms, who once believed his sweet lies. He didn't glance, he didn't smile, and yet, behind his quiet steps, Lagos whispered. His friends noticed first. Guy who charmed you? One asked, laughing as they sipped drinks at a rooftop lounge. Another leaned in with mischief. Or did you see a ghost in the village? You are scared of women now. Tony only shook his head. No jokes. No explanations. They wouldn't understand. He had changed. Not out of guilt. Not because of a sermon. But because he had felt what it was like to be used, to be taken without care, to become invisible. He had seen a mirror and it disgusted him. So he avoided women. Not because he hated them, but because he had learned how deeply he'd wounded them. He was just done pretending. One night, he sat by his bed, staring at his old black journal, the one he used to cherish. Page after page, woman after woman, lies, games, triumphs. Now they read like confessions. He thought of tearing them all out again like before, but this time his hand froze over the last blank page, and a memory returned. Lisa. He hadn't thought of her in a long time. She wasn't one of his usual conquests. She was different. The girl who had sat beside him under the mango tree, long before the money and fame. The girl who had always smiled without pretending. Who loved him when he had nothing. Who held his hand just to feel his presence, not to post him online. He remembered how she once told him, "You don't need every woman to feel loved, Tony. Just one who sees you." And he had laughed, dismissed her, added her name to the book, walked away without a backward glance. But now his heart ached. He wanted to find her, not to flirt, not to seduce, but to hold her hand and tell her he was no longer that boy. He picked up the pen. At the very bottom of the last page, in clean, quiet ink, he wrote, "Respect every woman. You never know who's watching." Then, below it, smaller, "Even the one who loved you before you lost yourself." He closed the book and placed it gently in the drawer. For the first time in his life, Tony Asika felt like a man worth loving. Tony stood across the street from the modest clinic in Surulere where Lisa worked as a nurse. He hadn't been here in years. The street hadn't changed, the cracked sidewalk, the small buka on the corner, the way the sun hit the glass windows around 4 p.m. But Tony had changed. He adjusted his shirt, wiped his palms on his jeans, and exhaled. "It's just Lisa," he told himself. But she wasn't just anything. She had been the beginning. the part of his story he had buried beneath ego and lust. And now he was back, unsure if he even had the right. The doors of the clinic swung open, and there she was, Lisa. Her hair tied back, ID card bouncing against her chest, eyes tired from a long shift. When their eyes met, she froze. She blinked, almost in disbelief. Then, quickly, she turned and began walking past him like he was a stranger. "Lisa," he called, stepping forward. She didn't stop. He moved to block her gently and touched her hand. "Please," he said softly. "Just a minute." She paused. Her eyes, sharp and tired, flicked to his hand. She pulled away. "What do you want, Tony?" Her voice cracked between anger and pain. "After all these years?" He swallowed, his voice low. "I was foolish, blind. You were the only one who ever saw me, really saw me, and I threw that away. I didn't see it until I was forced to." She folded her arms, cold but trembling. "You hurt me," she said, eyes glistening. "You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I was stupid for loving you." He nodded. "I know, and there's no excuse for how I treated you. I was broken, but I broke others to feel strong. And you didn't deserve that." She shook her head. "And how do I know this isn't just another smooth line? Another trick to make me feel wanted, and then walk away like I meant nothing again?" Tears clung to her lashes. Her voice rose. "You're cruel, Tony. You were so cruel." His eyes burned. "I'm not asking you to believe me today, or tomorrow. I'm just asking you to let me prove it. Little by little. I don't want anything from you. I just want to be the man I should have been." Lisa's walls were high, but her heart, it never really let go. Tony had been the love of her life, and the heartbreak that defined her. She looked away, as if searching the air for permission to hope. "Promise me," she whispered. He stepped closer, his voice barely audible. "I promise. I won't touch your heart unless I'm ready to protect it." Silence fell between them. The street noise faded. The air stilled. She looked at him, really looked. This wasn't the Tony she once knew, the one who charmed and manipulated. This was a man stripped of his ego. He was different. Her breath caught. She didn't smile, didn't cry. She simply nodded. Once, slowly. And for Tony, that was everything. He didn't pull her in, didn't try to kiss her. He just stood there, grateful. Maybe it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in his life, Tony Asika was ready to do the work. One day at a time.
Tony Asika had become a man no one could have imagined. Not the girls he once ghosted. Not the friends who once worshipped his lifestyle. Not even Lisa. She watched him in quiet awe each day, unsure how this version of Tony came to be. Thoughtful, kind, focused. He no longer craved attention. No longer flirted with waitresses or smiled at every passing beauty. His eyes, once restless, always searching for his next conquest, now carried peace. And they only searched for her. Every few days, he showed up at her workplace with flowers or homemade lunch, often standing in the hallway with that shy grin she never thought she'd see again. On her birthday, he took her to a quiet place by the water and read her poetry. Real ones that he wrote himself. No rhymes, just truth, raw and imperfect. He'd sit with her for hours, talking about things he used to mock. Books, fears, dreams, what his mother meant to him. There were no calls from strange women. No, sorry babe, I forgot. No hidden games. He was present, fully, and she felt it. She'd lie on his chest sometimes, listening to his heartbeat, wondering what miracle had melted the wall inside him. One evening, as they sat side by side watching a movie, his arm around her, her head on his shoulder, she turned to him softly and asked, "What happened to you, Tony?" He didn't flinch. He looked at her for a moment, his eyes steady, honest, then said, "I realized women aren't toys. They're people, like me, with hearts, with stories, with wounds, and they don't deserve to be used just because someone like me thinks he can." Tears welled up in her eyes, not because he was perfect, but because he had finally become real. The change in Tony didn't go unnoticed. People whispered, some laughed, Others watched in disbelief. Tony Asika? With one woman. Guy Asika. But he didn't care. He didn't chase clout anymore. He chased peace. And Lisa was his peace. If love was a garden, he watered it every day. Slowly, carefully, knowing what it meant to burn the whole thing down. One afternoon, Lisa found a note tucked into her bag after visiting his house. It read, "Loving you is not my penance. It's my redemption." She clutched the paper to her chest, smiling through quiet tears. That night, Tony sat alone in his room. The window was open. A calm breeze rolled in, carrying the scent of rain and dust. He sat at his desk, the small black journal in front of him. He had torn out every name, every lie, every tally. Now only one line sat on the final page, written in thick, slow ink. "Love is not a game. Women are not toys." He stared at it for a long time, letting the truth of it echo in his bones. He closed the journal gently and looked out the window, where the moon hung low and silent. He wasn't who he used to be. He was better. Not perfect, just better. Far away, miles from the city, a young man sped down a lonely road. Music blasting, sunglasses on, phone buzzing with messages from 5 different women. His grin wide, his shirt unbuttoned. He glanced at his reflection in the rearview mirror and smirked. Then the fog came, thick, sudden. He slowed down, wipers on. Squinting. The road bent slightly, and on the right, a wooden sign appeared through the mist. "Welcome to Erema." He leaned forward, confused. Erema? Never heard of that before. The sign stood still, old but untouched. The fog thickened behind him. His signal dropped. The music glitched. And then, the engine cut off. Thank you for watching and staying with us through Tony's journey. We hope his story made you reflect, feel, or even heal in some small way. So tell us, do you believe people like Tony can truly change? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful, emotional tales told through the lens of fiction and truth. New episodes every week. This is where stories heal.